Now it's officially the loudest voice of the week in the studio here in LA with Craig Pasta Jardula. We are going to give you guys a good one today. I want to introduce you to Senator Slotkin. She's one of the many, many Zionists that are in office. A dime a dozen.
It's Slotkin.
Is it Slotkin?
Slotkin.
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 Yeah, she's
sulking
sulking.
in the
She's
corner
sulking
somewhere.
now after what happened to her. But just to introduce you, this is the type of BS we get from a lot of these elected officials, selected officials, handpicked by AIPAC. This is her on Colbert just before Colbert got the axe. Just to give you an idea of what kind of person she is. And then we're going to show you loudest voice of the week that called her out. And spoiler alert, Colbert doesn't call her out, but this is just who she is. And again, so I'm just showing you guys, this is the type of interviews that are pre-planned. They're just PR for the military industrial complex, PR for Israel, AIPAC, all that stuff. So it's very rare that you get one of these senators like Elissa Slotkin to participate in a real interview. And we're not so exactly sure how they pulled it off, but we have to give the loudest voice of the week this week to Krystal and Saagar, who managed to get the Senator Slotkin on their Breaking Point show and have a real interview. One that, after a few minutes, it seems that her people were definitely telling them to end the interview. She had to leave. But let's look at what they were able to accomplish in this time. And then I want to break it down with you, Craig, on if you think anything was accomplished here. But for now, let's just say from a journalist point of view, loudest voice of the week, Krystal and Saagar. Let's check it out.
About those, calling of balls and strikes, if you will. So first of all, do you accept that Israel has a policy of enforced famine and starvation in the Gaza Strip?
I think I literally put my name on a letter yesterday or last night that says like a policy of starvation, people are starting to starve. And in general, I mean, I served in places like Ramadi and Fallujah. I watched in 2004 and 2005, Al-Qaeda terrorists drag American citizens behind a vehicle until they died, right? Like horrible, and then string them up like a lynching.
Okay.
We still had a responsibility to get aid into Fallujah, despite the fact that we were fighting Al-Qaeda cells in Fallujah, and I have been clear about that.
So this is a crime against humanity. Forced starvation is a crime against humanity.
The occupying power has a responsibility to get aid into the war zone, period.
So
by the law of war.
So in addition, do you accept that the Israeli plan, as reported by Haaretz, as discussed openly by ministers like Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, as backed by the President of the United States, is forced ethnic cleansing?
I think we have, as recently as yesterday, the Prime Minister of Israel talking about forced migration into certain areas and then potentially out of the country. That is not legal. That is not on any international standard since World War II. And I've been clear about that. So I would ask for a little bit of an open mind.
Well, what I would ask is, listen, I'm a YouTuber. I have my words, that's all I have. But you're a United States Senator. Like you're not the president, but you have power. So what are you going to do? Because so far what we've seen, I mean, you voted for some of the aid that's been used to massacre children and innocents. You have backed Israel, as far as I can tell, from your voting record at almost every turn. You voted for a definition of anti-Semitism that would, codify anti-Zionism as anti-Semitism. You voted as a member of the House to sanction the ICC for indicting Benjamin Netanyahu, who you just admitted is a war criminal, by your own words. So are you going to join Senator Angus King, Senator Bernie Sanders in saying no more aid to this country that is committing war crimes against innocent civilians?
I think the first thing, if you're asking about what to do with power, and I would offer that right now Democrats own nothing in Washington. So
don't play powerless with me. You're a United States Senator. There are things you can do.
In terms of who runs our foreign policy, I just think it's interesting, right, that there was a ton of protests when Democrats were in charge.
There was a protest in Manhattan yesterday.
Okay. I think it's fair to say, just to be honest, that back and forth, like the number of protests that go on now versus before.
Well, they were
very
part of
different.
your political coalition.
Well, not
right?
to mention, I mean, Senator
fair.
Slotkin,
That's fair.
obviously, I'm here.
Yeah.
I was very upset over the Biden administration policy. And as you can tell, I'm very upset over the Trump administration policy.
Yeah.
So let's deal not in strawman, but me and
but
here
in
and now.
terms of so the tools that I have, the tools that we have in general, to me, the most important thing is a pressurized campaign to get aid into people who are starving. That to me is the number one, because that's the one is urgent and today. And that.
But will you cut off aid to Israel so long as they're committing crimes against humanity?
There is a difference between a weapon to protect a country from incoming missiles versus other type. Offensive and defensive weapons are different.
So would you support offensive weapons ban? Like, would you stop any offensive aid to Israel?
That certainly, to me, would be a place to look, but I'm not going to cut off a blanket next sale on a defensive weapon.
I'm going to pause because this is where generally other news stations cut to a commercial for Pfizer. They're staying on it. And this is the important part. Stay on it. Don't let it go. Don't just let follow-up question. Here we go.
Through. No.
I also reject that because, for example, if Senator Slotkin, if you were asked to support defensive weapons for Iran, defensive weapons for Russia, you wouldn't back that.
No, but Iran, but
they're defensive. They're just protecting civilians, right? So how is it different?
But because Israel's being shot at.
So is Iran. So is Russia.
Ukraine's shooting at Russia right now.
I'm sorry. This is the difference between allies, partners, and adversaries.
Why is it an ally then? What are they doing right now, which makes it an ally?
I think allied relationships, just like Lithuania right now, like an allied relationship or a partner relationship is a long-standing relationship of information sharing and diplomacy. And that is, to me, it's not a like every day we decide Lithuania is our ally or not. We're allied or not. And sometimes we have big breaks with allies, right? Sometimes we have difficult moments with allies. Sometimes it goes the wrong way with allies. But an allied relationship is a long-term relationship.
It's hard for me to understand why we should ally. Like, I'm sure you believe in or claim to believe in liberal human rights. Why would we ally with a nation that is committing a genocide and live streaming it?
Can I ask literally, like this, I think about this from the mirror image way because I do not support the things that Donald Trump is doing, right? But I'm an American. So do I want other countries to look at America and be like, we can't stand Donald Trump, so we're going to end any longstanding relationship we have with the American people. We're going to cut off any support we give them on information sharing or intelligence sharing. Like, we are not just our elected leaders. And
she's using the argument of Donald Trump. If you have a problem with Donald Trump, you don't have a problem with the whole country, so you take care of the guy. Krystal and Saagar are saying this is beyond. You can't use that analogy because this is the entire essence of Israel. The entire this is not Donald Trump. This is the entire entity of Israel. So she's trying to play the Trump card, and she thinks she can get away with it because Krystal Ball, as we know, has a history of Trump derangement syndrome and might relate with that. But they continue at her.
I think that's the thing that's been lost.
In the
conversation.
So B'Tselem and another Israeli human rights organization joined the global consensus, Amnesty International, some 800 scholars. There was a piece from an Israeli scholar in the New York Times in saying this is a genocide. Do you accept, even Marjorie Taylor Greene yesterday came out and said it's a genocide. Do you accept that? And if you do, what responsibility does a United States senator have for, this is a nation that, we send every year billions of dollars to aid that you have, voted for and supported. Like, what responsibility does a United States senator have to prevent genocide and to stop genocide that we see ongoing?
We have a responsibility up till today to ensure that food is getting in.
Is it a genocide?
People don't starve. I don't know that I'd use that term,
Why?
but it is violating the law of war.
Why don't you use the term though?
Because I think, it's, to me, do I think it's ethnic cleansing, which is what I think of in genocide? I don't know if it meets that definition.
Okay, watch this. This is excellent interview skills. Now she's going to use the words against her that she said earlier. You remember what she said earlier? Here we go.
They're announcing
but didn't you
it.
say it earlier that it was ethnic cleansing? You said that they wanted to force it. This is open from the Israeli government. Like they're saying it. Their
And from
Minister
Trump,
of National
too.
Security, they come out and they're like, we don't need shells. We need shells, not food. And we need to encourage migration.
Look,
they're saying
you're not going to get me to
Yeah.
support what the Israeli government is saying right now. I think the point I was trying to make is it's not just about like we have relationships with nations over time, regardless of who their leaders are. We have really tough moments. We have easier moments, but that doesn't. So I'm not willing to say that like I hate everything ever.
Sure,
into
but
the,
so
the future.
even if you accept that they're committing a genocide, you still wouldn't cut off their aid?
I think that defensive aid and offensive aid are different things, and I think at this point,
So
what
if
they're
Nazi
doing
Germany,
every single day
if Nazi
doing,
That's okay. So they have in their ear, they have their stagehands, the producers who are on in constant communication with her people, trying to keep her on point because it's all PR for her. Yeah. And like you guys, we opened with the Colbert opening because that's the way it's all supposed to be theater. It's all entertainment. You might as well have a live audience, which by the way, Colbert doesn't have that anymore because nobody's watching that crap anymore. But the point is that you're supposed to, check in and make sure everything's going as planned. So they're going to continue. You guys can go watch the whole thing. There's like 5 more minutes of this, and they're going to continue, Adam. Even though her people are on their ear right now with Saagar saying she needs to leave. She needs to leave. And then they will double down and say, hey, we know your people are telling us right now that you have to go, but we have a few more questions for you. And that's what you have to do in those moments. Yeah. You have her in your studio. You have someone yelling in your ear, but you stay at it. Yes, she'll never go back on breaking points ever again. But they got the moment, and that's important.
She might, because I don't know. It didn't look like it was doing too much damage. That she can stay to her talking points and get away with that. And the fact that Saagar and
Krystal
get that opportunity that a lot of us don't tells you something too as well, because they're called what's called safe dangerous. They'll go into dangerous areas, but they'll never push the boundaries. In other words, they won't go into those dangerous areas until it's safe to stay so, until the media is turned, until they're doing their narrative management. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, you just look at the interviews they had on COVID with RFK. They look like
well, that's another.
So they're still pushing a certain point of line. In other words, they're allowed to do this, and they get the opportunity to do this because it's Donald Trump.
Okay, look, you brought up the COVID thing. I'm not going to hold the fact that that the COVIDian mindset, the mind fuck that happened to Crystal Ball during COVID, I'm not going to hold that against her for this moment. But she certainly was not grounded
did Crystal Ball vote for?
That's a great point. We know she voted for Biden in 2020. Okay. In 2024.
Enough said.
In 2024, we're not sure.
She's actually doing the same thing that Elissa Slotkin is doing too as well. No, she's always provided.
Did she vote for Kamala?
She's always provided.
Do we know if she voted for Kamala? I don't know.
She's always provided cover, her and Kyle Kalinske, for the Democratic Party. I would bet that she voted for Kamala Harris because she's always provided. This is the lesser of two evils. She
has a history of doing that. Always. You're right. You're 100% right.
I mean,
but Gaza might be her tipping point. It might be it.
Gaza's a lot of tipping point, but it's just one area. It's one subject. You know
it's one thing.
It's and I do appreciate that. Saagar talking about, well, yeah, Ukrainians are shooting at Russians right now. They're we're providing them offensive. So I do appreciate that right there. But once again, I mean, they have limitations.
Well, there was 5 minutes left of the interview, and I'm telling you guys, once they're telling you in your ear she needs to leave, and you challenge that, and you say, no, we're going to keep you for a few more questions. That's cool. That takes some balls, and that's why we're going to give these guys what we call the loudest voice of the week. Okay, let me take a moment to introduce you to our good friends over at World Harvest Food Bank right here in LA. World Harvest has been serving families across Los Angeles for 18 years now, and they started with this simple idea. Everyone deserves access to healthy, affordable food no matter what they're going through. With their Cart with a Heart program, families can walk away with a full cart of groceries, fresh produce, dairy, meat, and pantry supplies for just a $50 contribution. That's for the entire cart. That same cart will cost over $300 at a typical grocery store. At World Harvest, everyone is welcome. They don't ask for income verification, ID, or any paperwork. No. Basically, their doors are open to anyone who's doing their best, but just needs a little extra push to get by. If you're an Angelino like me, you know the times have been tough here. First with all the union strikes, the LA fires, and now the ICE raids going on. It seems like we're living in a constant state of uncertainty. And that's why it's so important to support local charities like World Harvest, because they aren't just helping the community, they're an essential function in its very survival. World Harvest is located at Venice and Arlington. And right now, you can use our special discount code THL20 for 20% off your contribution amount at checkout. And if you're not in the LA area, you can still help out with a $50 donation, which will provide a full cart of food for a family by going to worldharvestfoodbank.org or scan the QR code for more info. Or you can just spread the word. Follow them online. Let people know they're here for them, because at the end of the day, it's about providing choice, access, and relief without barriers. World Harvest Food Bank. End hunger now.